My name is Linda Rogers, owner of Planning Within Reach. I am sharing with you today some information about late stage college planning. I have with me Heidi King, who I met through a NAPFA study group that I attended. I took so much information from that meeting. It was incredibly helpful. I feel like as financial advisors, we are really good about having clients save money in 529 plans. But this late stage, now I have a kid going to college, trying to select a college. How are we going to actually pay for this? We don't have everything in the 529 in terms of funding it. What do we do? So I would just love to have her share with you about herself, what her company does, the services that she provides to clients, and give you some takeaways, things that you can use now to start helping you prepare for your kids' college. So, Heidi, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about something that I am super passionate about, which is helping families be a little bit more strategic about their college search, maybe thinking about it a little bit earlier, and opening up the conversation really about what right fit schools really can be. When we think about right fit, right academic fit, right social fit, and right financial fit. So thanks so much for having me on today. So, in general, I think one of the most important things for families is coming up with a plan to make the college process more successful. Some people have saved well, but it is very confusing what college is going to cost. And so, on the way to figure out what we're going to pay and what we're comfortable paying for college is one way that a financial advisor truly is so helpful, right? Is that plan ahead of time so we can be nimble with our options. What is super confusing though is what will college cost and if there is a gap between what we have saved and what we're finding we're actually getting an offer for school is coming up with a plan late stage to pay for that. Okay. True. I would prefer that people do I am comfortable paying this ahead of, hey, we got into college, let's have a plan now. Because what happens is our kids will fall in love with the school. And then we are not comfortable paying for that price. So that's why I think it's so important to put, hey, we're really only comfortable with this amount or this range ahead of the applying for school. Okay. There's nothing worse than really your kid falling in love with the school, assuming that you're going to get a big scholarship and great grades. And the reality is the schools that your kiddo is applying to is just not a giving school for merit scholarships. So coming up with the plan sometimes will include loans, and that is fine. All loans are not bad loans. But when we try to help families better understand the loan landscape, they have two different buckets of loans: federal loans and private space loans. Federal loans come from the FAFSA form. It's actually the application for the federal student loan. And by far, that is the loan with the best terms. However, it just doesn't give kids a ton of money. All right. The FAFSA loan that a student can get is only $5,500 as a freshman. It does go up a little bit every year. $5,500 as a freshman, $6,500 as a sophomore, they're eligible for $7,500 as a junior and senior. That is the only loan a student can get without someone co-signing. Okay, full stop. They don't have credit. They cannot get loans really anywhere. Or maybe a grandparent. Okay, so if there's a gap, that's what families should automatically consider first. Best rate, good terms, gives kids skin in the game. Okay. Private space loans, the parents have loan options through the federal system. That's the Direct Plus loan. There's new caps on that. We can go into that a little bit. There's also private space loans. You have to check the terms on those. So that would be like the entry into the loan space.
Yes. And so that's really helpful. And I will say, something many people say is, I paid for college, my kid can pay for college. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, this is your financial plan.
Yeah.
We're going to work towards what works for you. But I mean, is that really feasible these days that they could fully fund? I mean, the prices have just skyrocketed. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So please understand tuition has gone up depending on private or public schools. It's vastly outpaced all other industries or many other industries, right? We've seen tuition rise over 200% in 20, 25 years. So that $5,500 a student can get without a cosigner doesn't even cover tuition at 95% of the schools. So while I understand the put your bootstraps up and you can do this, I paid for college on my own, it is virtually impossible to implement, have a student pay for themselves these days without parents getting involved. And that is super surprising for families.
It really is.
Yep.
But from your research and kind of what I heard
Mhm.
you say is college is still worth it. Because that's another
Oh,
thing
yeah.
that people will say, like, is it even worth it anymore? Should we look at alternatives? But the numbers don't back that up.
Numbers still do back it up,
Yeah.
although I understand
Yeah.
not everybody has to have college be part of their journey. Absolutely. There are other professions, and college is not for every kid, right? But when we're thinking about the ROI of an undergraduate degree, we can evaluate it based on, growth and if we just consider income, which I don't mean is the only attribute to college or when we're deciding. But if we look at the annual return of a typical college degree, it does have more than a 10% year over year annual return compared to not seeking the degree in general. Now, ROI can be talked about from this field all the way up to, different fields, and I provide different outcomes. But statistics show that an undergraduate degree still does pay off.
Yeah. And then another strategy that people come with in mind is the 2 years at community college first to knock out some basic classes and then transferring to an undergrad the last 2 years. What do you see with that type of strategy?
I think it can be a wonderful strategy, but please understand there are also hiccups. Some of our community colleges do a great job linking you straight up with a state public school, whether that be a regional school or your state flagship school. That can be a fabulous way to leverage community college. The problem is that 4 out of 5 kiddos that enter community college say they are going to apply and eventually desire to go to a 4-year school. Statistics shows that there is something that bubbles up that they don't get there because only 2 in 5 end up making it and then continuing and finishing their 4-year degree. Not you don't always have to do it in 4-year degrees, but their undergraduate bachelor's degree. So there is something that slows kids down. Potentially, it is just important to think about it. If it's for cost savings, please make sure that there is a matriculation plan in place. If your child is just a little lost and not really sure that they even want a college degree, then they end up being with a lot of other kids that are in the same situation. They're just not sure about college at all. And they can be on a less motivated track than if they went to school in the first place.
Yeah.
So I am a huge proponent of the success of a community college, but statistic shows that they have to be very well managed on the way so things don't happen that derail them.
Yeah, completely makes sense.
Yep.
I want to make sure that we talk about the services that you provide. There's I could just see so many benefits.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned was even just the cost of transferring. Like if you don't
Yeah.
get it right the first time, we
Mhm.
we tried our best, the kid it's not a good match and they end up moving. There's a cost associated with that on top of all the other costs we just talked about. So it just speaks to really trying to find that good match
Yeah.
versus best school and being proactive. Also, just having a teenager, having an outside, objective third party talking to her
Yeah.
and me,
Yeah.
I could see the benefit because, like you said, they can really get wrapped up with like their vision of where they see themselves and it does not align with like the degree they're planning to choose and all of that. So I really do see the benefit. I mean, before we go into your services, is there any last things that you wanted to mention? And of course, if not, just dive right into it.
Yeah. So I think what we're talking about is how hard our kids are working during high school to be competitive for colleges. And, you know, but at the end of the day, sometimes the thoughtfulness of where am I going to have the most success, where am I going to fit in? Where am I going to want to live for 4 years and move within a major, right? Kids end up changing their majors or adding a minor or a major in 60% or more. Right. So we want to build in some options for the kids, and we really want to help them better understand that college is not a monolith. They do not all teach the same. Kids need to reverse engineer and really have a thoughtful conversation about where am I going to be successful. That may not just be because my friend XYZ wants to go to that school, or my cousin went to that school, or my mom or dad graduated from the school, or that school is even on a top 20 list for my major or my interests, or frankly, 7 home football games. Okay. We really, and I always say, I've never met a kid yet that doesn't want to go to the beach or go to the mountains and go to UC Boulder. Okay. So trying to be a little more thoughtful about what right fit is because the transfer statistics show us that it is very challenging for families to evaluate right fit schools, apply to them, and then get in and have their kiddos stay. Okay. So there's a chain that creates that link fence. We can see that it's difficult because the national transfer rate is 38%.
Crazy.
Which is concerning, right? So, that means all that work that your kiddo did during evaluating is has become a situation where when they get there, they hate school. They dislike school so much that at some point they're transferring. Okay. And as a parent whose kids just went through college and recently graduated, I know that they're at risk. It is hard to get into college and then sit there and figure out your new friend group. Okay. And if we're transferring that much, there's a cost to it emotionally, right? Because you wanted them to have success. They worked really hard, they applied, and then they want to come home. But we also see the financial costs to that as well. Because if 38% are transferring, that actually statistically adds $14,000 to their degree. Okay. So there's an emotional cost and there's actually an economic cost. Because if you're transferring, it's very difficult to finish college in 4 years. And so you're adding to the cost of the degree because potentially more classes, but it's also just very difficult to then graduate in 4 years. So you might be adding more semesters. Okay. And then startling, and this is also, it is very startling, is that the kids will come home, they may reset Maybe they'll take a class at a community college, or maybe, after a year or so, they'll want to go and reapply to a four-year school. Of that original 38% that transfer one time, 45% of them end up transferring again. It's truly because they're there as maybe a junior. That means they're typically 20. They might have to live in the dorms. Everybody that's in the dorms are incoming freshmen. The kids that are your age already have your friend groups. The kids that are coming in feel really different.
Yeah.
So finding right fit, better understanding what it means to find academic fit, social fit the first time really helps you with that whole financial picture. All right. So when we work with families, right fit the first time is always the goal. Better understanding academically. Are you a competitive learner? Do you really think you're going to excel at a super, super, super competitive where even to get into a club, even to get into a business fraternity club, you have to apply. And it is so competitive that 90% of kids do not get in as freshmen, will not get in as sophomores, but you may get in as a junior. Okay. That could be awesome for some kids. They love that. They thrive in that environment. But other kids, they really want to have more opportunities to join things. So, academic fit, what kind of a learner are you? Does this college build and bring some wiggle room for your major? Okay.
Yeah.
What opportunities are there for internships? Who comes here for career days? Man, we're spending $60,000 on college a year. State flagship schools easily are $40,000 a year. It's very hard to get college under $30,000 a year. And those super, super, super competitive schools, Northeastern, Vanderbilt, all over $100,000 per year, 1 year. Finding right fit is so important. Okay, right fit academically, we talked about, right fit socially. Really, what kind of a vibe do you want on campus? Like, this is the thing that resonates with kids earliest.
Mhm.
So if you have a kiddo that doesn't really want to talk about college yet, get them on campus. Go have walk around, have a burger, get a piece of pizza, attend a play or a sporting event. Social fit. And then truly, this is one thing that you are so helpful with is that financial fit. Okay. Advisors can be so helpful putting a successful plan in place to be ready for current costs or projected costs. All right. Because college does keep going up. When we help families, we are helping not with that, where are we putting our money in a 529 or elsewhere? When we help with financial fit, we are really helping with analytics.
Mhm.
How much does college cost? What are the colleges you're looking at, in state, out of state, private, public, and better understand how to put a financial plan in place that the colleges you're looking at are you're comfortable paying at the end of the day. So that's a little bit about the transfer rate. And that's a little bit about how to implement that success and really how College and Sidetrack, the bones of how we start to help families be more successful, better outcomes, more strategic. And yeah, we get to be a neutral third party. Love that.
So helpful. And a couple new things popped up because I can't believe I didn't think of this, but I got my first job because a company came on campus and interviewed
Mhm.
college seniors. And I didn't even think to ask that, but that's such a good point. Like, especially if they do have thoughts on who they want to work for, who comes on
Yeah.
campus.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of clients right now that are in this boat are asking me, we're kind of starting to get numbers. How does
Uh,
this impact our retirement? So if we're going to
uh,
stretch a little bit, like, are
yeah.
we going to have to work longer? And like, to your point,
Mhm.
that might be okay, but just knowing
Mhm.
what those decisions make. Also, if you have multiple kids, if we're stretching for the
Yes.
first, are we penalizing the later? So being cognizant of that.
Launching into the right fit school the first time, so important. Where are we not willing to make concessions and better understanding the pricing ahead of time, the opportunities that your child is creating as a freshman and a sophomore and a junior for themselves to better their financial award letter? How much merit can we get from this school versus that school, right? And then, I think we are part of a team that can really help have better outcomes, a better list, a better foundation in high school. What are the things you can do to implement and garner more scholarships and more merit, right? And then, not bump into are we going to have to move money under the coconuts and take from our retirement to fund college, right? Because at the end of the day, we really find success thinking about some of those things earlier and not pulling from retirement to have college be successful. There's absolutely ways to do that, but we just need to have more runway. More runway does not mean that we're having these conversations rising senior year. More runway is have these conversations maybe sophomore year in high school.
Yeah. I love that analogy, more runway. Plus you're a pilot, so
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
So, and then, okay, so just leave us with one last final thought tidbit. I'm going to share mine that I just heard from a client that has a senior going into college, which was everywhere you go, just visit a college. And I thought that was so
Mhm.
interesting to
Mhm.
your point, like the fit. I just
Yeah.
told you I was going to New York for spring break. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I should go to NYU because my daughter talked about it. Like it
Yep.
just, everywhere you go, just they get a fit, a
Mhm.
feel for what's there, what they like, what they don't like, how close is it to public transportation, things like that. So I thought that was a really good tip that you also mentioned. So what about you? Any last thoughts? And I know you wanted to mention something about UVA too, but if you have time.
Yeah. So where I want you to know better. Yes, true. If you are nearby, visit. Make it low key. Not every kiddo is ready to sign up for a college tour as an eighth grader. Okay. But you can walk campus. You can figure out what a campus environment will be like. NYU is massively applied to. Kids love the vibe at NYU. Also, go look at Fordham. So,
Okay.
it's right. You're so close to other universities when and maybe then they can learn what's too big, what's too small, what's too urban. I want a quad, or I didn't even know campuses might not have a quad. Takeaways can be so insightful, and it doesn't need to be super stressful. We want them to kind of understand there is a college for every kid, but we want to help students better understand what's going to be right for them, and that again, there really are differences in the campus environment. Okay. Another takeaway, what we know as college from back in the day when we did it has really, really changed. We know that the cost of college has gone up. Please understand the competition for certain schools and certain majors is bananas. You and I were talking about some of the statistics. So we worked with about 280 kids last year's class. Okay. And at College Inside Track, we've been around for 20 years. So we have seen movement and changes and things that we once thought were foundational, maybe safety schools, or certain leveraging that you can do, and how much that has changed in 20 years. Okay. So, for example, our state flagship schools have become universally harder to get into. The statistic you and I were talking about is at UVA last year, so this current year, 82,000 applicants, which was up in 1 year, 27%.
Wow.
27%. So 64,000 people applied the year before. In this year for 2026 grads, it was 82,000 people applied to UVA. Okay. UT Knoxville, very close by, year over year over year for the last 4 years. We have seen that application pool grow and grow and grow. Last year alone, 10%. I would say on average, it has been 10%. It is so difficult now to get into UT Knoxville that, like UNC, like UT Austin, they are having to make a preference pool for in-state kiddos.
Hmm.
So as a parent, you have to understand we are seeing certain statistics. They're generic. You need this ACT or this ACT or SAT or this GPA to get into this school. We need to take that one step further when we are building our list. At College Inside Track, we build a lot of analytics into better understanding building a list. Okay. Are we in state? Are we out of state? Is that a competitive major that has capacity issues? Business, engineering, nursing, in addition to computer science, super, super competitive. Business applications are up. Computer science is trending down with AI. So, business, very broad. You can be anywhere from creative to organizational to heavy finance to lots in between. All right, there's majors that are being developed now, AI and business related, that weren't even in existence 4 years ago. Trends. So we are really good at helping families better understand how to be strategic, how to be a little bit more nimble with critical thinking, how to better understand how to apply when we know things are going to change, even in the 4 year structure that kids will be there. Okay. So I think that's one reason that people will engage, having a neutral third party help shepherd them through, because
Absolutely.
they will, it's really nice to. I was working with another financial advisor in a group last week. He said, I hired somebody because frankly, I wanted to enjoy and feel like I don't want to learn the specifics and all the details and ask my kid every Sunday night, have you done your right?
So true.
So that's one reason that people hire us. Okay, is we get to shepherd the kids through. We get to make sure that you understand the landscape. All right. And then you can make your own family's best decision. And you know that the outcomes you are implementing, different parts and pieces to give your child the best opportunities, right? Not just a top 20 school, but the right fit for your student, and make sure that they are pulling as many levers as they can to be a competitive applicant. And then analytically, that price point is something you're going to be comfortable with as a family. And I think that's something that we really are good for families that value and want to have help during that. It's a cycle of applying.
Yes, no, very well said. As with anything, I mean, you could maybe do it on your own, but
Yeah.
outsourcing it to someone who's done it for 20 years, has all that experience, well worth it, in my opinion. So thank you for this. It was incredibly helpful. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Best way to reach out, is I have, company is College Inside Track. Email is hking at College Inside Track. Go look at our website. You'll see some family testimonials, people that have worked with us, and you can learn a little bit more about our program, and then email me or get a hold of me through you, Linda.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Heidi.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate it.